You laugh. You think that sounds silly, but how many of us are in that boat with them? We celebrated 21 this year. Had to do the math to make sure that was right. But these little videos, they're funny. They are. They're supposed to be. They're attention getters. And they make you think, hopefully, about what this very topic is that we're talking about. And over the last 2 weeks, we've talked about choices, different kinds of choices. The first week, we talked about purpose over popularity, or talked about the choice of choosing purpose over choosing popularity. Last week was a difficult one for some people. Talked about surrender over control. Anybody try letting go of something this past week? So you're still in control. We'll work on that a little bit more as time goes by. Surrender over control, that's a hard thing to do, is letting go of something and not to be in control. So this week, next week actually, we're going to talk about another difficult one. We're going to talk about the important over the urgent. Isn't it amazing how things seem to be so important? I got to take care of it right now. Life's going to end if I don't take care of this immediately. No, most likely not. Very few things that are so urgent that you can't take care of it later, or you can't prioritize when you're going to take care of it. They're choosing the important over the urgent. This week, however, we're going to talk about a painful subject. Now, you're supposed to start out most messages, when you go through seminary and you go through school, they'll tell you that you should start out your message with something that's positive. You should never start the message with a negative, because that just gets everybody down. Well, I'm not going to go with that today. I'm going to go against that. Here's the reality of life. You will experience pain in this life. Welcome to church this morning, where our goal is to make you feel better about yourself. You guys are dead this morning. That was funny. Come on. Oh, now you're belittling me. Okay, I get it. You will experience pain in this life. Any amens to that? How many of you are members of the human race? Okay, if you didn't raise your hand, that's probably another discussion later. You will experience pain in this life. Some of it's of your own doing. Some of it is of no doing whatsoever of your own. Some of it is at the hand of others, is at the hand of situations that are dealt you, at the hand of other things, a betrayal, an accident, your company downsizes and you lose your job, or your little kid brings a kitten home. Sometimes pain comes at not your fault. I'm not a cat fan, by the way. Not really a dog fan, but, got 3 of those. Sometimes you can't do anything about it, but there is a reality. You will experience pain in this life. You remember last week, actually all throughout this, we talked about, in essence, you are the sum total of what? I've listened so well. The choices that you make in life. Today is a result of the choices that you have made. Tomorrow is the result of the choices that you make today. You're the sum total of choices that you make in life. Well, here's a difficult one. You're going to deal with pain in this life, but what kind of pain are you going to choose to deal with? Are you going to deal, and I'm talking about the stuff that comes at you that you can't do anything about. I'm not talking about the accidents. I'm not talking about the pain of the company downsizing and losing the job. I'm not talking about the pain of a loss, those kind of things. I'm talking about the things that you cause. Are you going to deal with the pain of discipline now, discipline yourself to get through, or are you going to deal with the pain of the regret of not doing it later? So we have a choice to make. Do we choose discipline, or do we choose regret later? Sometimes you have a choice. Sometimes you don't. Now, we're going to use an example. First of all, we probably need to define what discipline means. How many of you like that word discipline? No. What do you think of when you think of the word discipline? Think of the hand of God reaching down from heaven, waiting for you to do something wrong so he can just swipe you off the face of the earth, right? Sadly, that's what a lot of people view God as. Or how many of you remember when you got in trouble at school? You got in trouble by the teacher, you got in trouble by the principal, and then the principal called your mom, and you were going to get in trouble by mom when you got home, and when mom got through with you, she said, just wait till your dad gets home. How many of you, that's your view of discipline? Yeah. How many of you have a hard time getting up when the alarm goes off in the morning? That's discipline. How many of you have a hard time doing what's right when it's time to do what's right? That's discipline. How many of you have a hard time saying no to what's wrong? That's discipline. So we can either choose the pain of discipline now, or we can choose the pain of the regret later. But let's define discipline. Let's define it as this. Discipline is choosing between what you want now versus what you want the most. Let that sink in. It's the difference between choosing what you want now versus choosing what you want the most. Isn't it amazing how we live in such a society that information is available right now? You can look up, how many of you looked up the definition of discipline when I said let's define discipline? Somebody did, you're just not willing to admit it. You Googled it to see what discipline says. You're Googling it right now to see if I'm right. We have information available to us right now. You know what that does to our ability to be disciplined? It destroys it. Because we live in such a me-driven society. We live in such an instant gratification society that we don't have to wait over the period of time to take care of something. We can do it now. We can make ourselves happy now. What does that do to you in the long run, though? What does having the instant gratification of information now do to you in the future? Paul talks about this very thing. And I love this passage in Romans because it defines us. And I'm so thankful that he defines us this way because you can probably all relate to this. You can turn with me if you want to over to Romans. We're going to pick a few verses out of here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. In verse 14, start in verse 14, actually in verse 15, I don't really understand myself. Anybody got an amen right there? I don't really understand myself. Now, I'm not asking if you understand me. Do you understand you? I don't really understand myself. Paul even says that. I'm thankful that Paul says that because it makes me feel like not such an idiot sometimes. It makes me feel like not such a loser sometimes because even Paul couldn't understand himself. How many of you know who Paul is, right? Everybody in this room knows who Paul is. You know what Paul went through to get to where he's at. Paul had an encounter with Christ on a road. Paul was blind for 3 days after this encounter. Had a life-changing, career-altering, literally, encounter. Paul went from being the persecutor to being the persecuted. Paul went from being the murderer to being the one that others sought after to shut him up. Paul's life changed radically because of an encounter. So if anyone was confused about who they were, I think it might have been Paul. Paul says, I don't really understand myself. Why? Because I want to do what is right, but I don't do it. Instead, I do what I hate. Anybody relate to that? I want to do what's right, but I just can't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but somehow I seem to always do that. Oh, what a miserable person I am. Who will free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? Thank God the answer is in Jesus Christ our Lord. Who can deliver me? You can't deliver yourself. The next best self-help book at Mardell can't deliver you. The next best video program to tell you how to be a better you can't deliver you. There's only one that can deliver you, and that's Jesus Christ himself. We kind of sang about that this morning. About that wonderful cross, that wondrous cross that changed you, that changed me. I don't understand myself, but with Christ's help, I can change. So we have to ask ourselves, do we choose what's right now? Do we choose what I want to do now? Or do I choose what I want to do the most? Which one's the most important to me? And Paul later on talks about it from another perspective. How do you do that? How do you choose what's right for the long run versus what's right now? He uses athletics. What a fitting concept. What a fitting alliteration on a Super Bowl Sunday. In Corinthians, he talks about the race. Don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs? But does everyone win? Now, I didn't say does everybody get a participation trophy. Does everyone win the race? No, there's only one person who wins the race. But only one gets the prize. So run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away. But we do it for an eternal prize. Let's think about that for a minute. It's Super Bowl Sunday. Do you think that the Chiefs and the 49ers got there without hard work? Do you think that they got to the opportunity to play in the football game of the year without some pretty serious sacrifice and some pretty serious discipline in how they prepared for this game? Absolutely they did. They can't get there just, hey, let's go play football one day and suddenly you're in the Super Bowl. It doesn't work that way. It takes discipline to show up to practice. It takes discipline to take care of your body, to make it through a full season. It takes discipline to follow a game book, to follow a game plan, follow a playbook. It takes discipline to get to win the prize. An athlete that runs a race, anybody ever run a marathon? I'm going to schedule you an appointment with a psychiatrist if you have. If you've ever run have you ever run a 5K? How hard is it to prepare for even a 5K? I've started a bunch of them. I don't think I've ever finished one. It takes work. You realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one gets the prize. But why does everybody run? You run because you want to win. You're not going to put yourself through all that to not win. You're not going to put yourself all of that to say, I'm working out for second place. You ever heard anybody say that? No. Mom always said second place just means you're the best loser. She had a way with words. I don't think you can say that anymore because I might hurt somebody's feelings. But it's true, only one wins the race. There's only one winner. Everybody else is a loser. Everybody else is second place. So when we get ready to run this race of life, shouldn't we run it with the conviction to win it? Shouldn't we run it with the conviction that I'm going to give it everything that I have so that I can get to the finish line and be patted on the back and say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away. Next Sunday, I challenge you to ask your friends, actually wait till a week from tomorrow. Ask your friends at work on Monday who was in the Super Bowl 8 days ago. I bet you half of them can't even tell you who the two teams are. Can you tell me who was in the Super Bowl last year? I figured a couple of you could. But the rest of you are like, boy, I'm glad they answered fast because I had no clue. The game fades. What they worked for fades. It's gone. Now it's interesting that he uses a race because he's probably referencing a significant race in the Corinthian area in Corinth called the Isthmian Games. Now, the Isthmian Games were a huge race. In fact, the ones that entered the race, they would they would dedicate themselves for about 10 months for this race. They took 2 months off out of the year to live for them, to relax and recuperate a little bit. But for 10 months, they dedicated themselves, hard discipline to taking care of their bodies, to getting ready for this race. They would, a strict diet, no junk food, no alcoholic drinks, nothing that wasn't producing results in their body. They would subject themselves to extreme cold and to extreme heat while they're working out so they'd be ready for this race. It was a big deal. And you weren't going to win this race. You weren't even going to be close to winning this race without having the discipline to do that for 10 months. Now, how many of you would discipline yourself for 10 months to run a race? Bless your heart. I would love to say that I'm disciplined enough to do that. But I really just don't know that I would be able to. Run to win. Later, Hebrews says, strip off the things that hinder you. Run the race with conviction. Take the things off that hinder you. Eliminate the sin and the shame that slows you down. Now, another race alliteration here. This is going to get a little graphic, okay? But it's a reality. Do you know what he's probably referencing when he's talking about the race and strip off the things that slow you down? Guess what clothes do to you when you're running? They're not aerodynamically fit. They didn't have the dry fit and the clothes that we have today, all right? Stuff slowed you down. Just the friction of the cloth being on your body would slow you down. So when they said to strip off, they literally would run the race. You get the picture here? You talk about motivation. If I'm running a race with a bunch of naked guys, I'm winning. I ain't going to be behind them. I mean, let's just be honest. Just making sure you're awake. But they understood that. Strip off the things that slow you down. What do? What is it that slows us down? What is it that slows us from running the race? What are the choices that we make that we hold on to the stuff that weighs us down now instead of running the race with discipline? There's pain in discipline sometimes, though. You don't think there's pain in that 10 months of getting ready for the race? Absolutely there is. There's pain in having to discipline ourselves for what we want the most versus what we want now. It's easy to give in to what you want now. It's hard to discipline yourself to work to what you want the most. Now, before we jump into a couple of questions here, somebody's just checking on where you're at. Before we jump into a couple of questions here, if you take this seriously, if you take the next few minutes seriously, and you dive into these questions, and you really dig in and you ask yourself, and you answer these honestly, I believe that there's somebody in this room even that is about to experience a life-changing event. Because for too long you've been worried about now, and you haven't thought about what's really important. I believe that's the problem with the church in general. Is for too long we've been worried about now. And we're not thinking about what's the most important. If we concentrate and we discipline ourselves to think about what's the most important, what we want the most, we won't worry about the now. So let's dive in. Let's ask ourselves these two questions. First question is this: what do you want the most? Now, help me out here. Let's be legitimate in our answers. Let's be realistic. Well, what I want the most is to win the lottery. Pretty sure God's not going to bless that. What I want the most is to live in a mansion. That may be true, but what are some other practical applications to get to that point? Maybe what you want the most is to get out of debt. Maybe that's the thing that drives you. That's the desire that you have right now is the most is to get out of debt. You're tired of paying for two vehicles. You're tired of paying a house payment. You're tired of paying student loans. You're tired of paying these stupid little credit cards that I thought I needed to buy something now on it. And now I'm burdened with the regret of this debt that I have. So what I want the most is to get out of debt. What I want the most is to grow closer in my relationship with Christ. What I want the most is to be devoted in my prayer life. What I want the most is to be devoted in my Bible study life. What I want the most is to, you see what I'm saying? Be honest with yourself. What is it? I should see everybody in a head down writing on something right now. What is it that you want the most? Here's reality. When you start to see the victories in the little things, guess what begins to happen? Victories in the big things start to happen. Let me give you an example. Maybe what I want the most is to be out of debt. Maybe what I want the most is to pay off all my credit cards, to pay off everything I have so that I can just give more freely and not have to worry about paying people that I owe. Maybe that's what I want the most. And maybe those little victories, or when it comes time to go buy something, I decide, you know what, this is not that important right now. I can wait. I can continue to save. And instead of putting this on a credit card that's drawing 32% interest, and it'll take me 18 years to pay off this $80 purchase, I can take 2 months to save that $80 and then pay cash for it. And I don't burden myself with that debt. And you know what happens when you can save yourself from that $80 purchase? Before you know it, you shy away from the $160 purchase, and then the $400 purchase, and then the $1,800 purchase, and then you shy away from that new car that you think you need, and then you shy away from the boat that you want, because you've conditioned yourself to think in a way that you're thinking about what's most important versus what I want now. You see how that works? And before long, the choices become easy. So what do you want most? Answer that question honestly. What is it that you want the most? The second thing you need to do is ask yourself this question and answer this question. What do you need to choose now to achieve what you want most? What do you need to choose now to achieve what it is that you want the most? I just kind of walked you through that. The thing I want the most is to be out of debt. So I need to choose now to just park the credit cards. I need to choose now to not use them. I need to choose now to stay off of Amazon. Amen. I need to choose now to stay off of eBay. I need to choose now to not get on Facebook Marketplace, because those things just latch you and they convince you that you can afford this $30 here. You can afford this $50 here. You can afford this. You can afford this. You can afford this. Besides, I don't see it now anyway because I put it on a credit card. I'll pay it later. And before you know it, you're burdened with the pain of regret of having purchased it. Because guess what probably happened to the thing that you purchased in the first place? You either consumed it, you lost it, you broke it, or you just don't use it anymore. So now you're saddled with this 32% debt for something that you don't even care about anymore. You're going to deal with pain. Here's the pain of discipline now, or the pain of the regret later. It's a given. It's a reality. Maybe you want to choose to be closer to God. So you choose a Bible reading plan to get in His Word and to study more. You choose you come to prayer meeting on Sunday night to grow closer with each other in prayer. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you want to lose 20 pounds. Well, it's not going to change. It's not going to happen on its own if you continue the same diet that you're on and you continue the same workout plan that you're on. So what are you going to do about it? Maybe I'm going to go join a gym. Maybe I'm going to hire a trainer. Maybe I'm going to get help on a diet, but these things cost money. Yeah, they sure do. You're going to choose the pain of discipline now, or you're going to choose the pain of the regret later. It's your choice, but you're going to choose one or the other. Actually, you're going to choose one, or the other one's going to be chosen for you. Maybe your marriage is in trouble, and the most important thing to you now is to fix your marriage. So what do? You have a date night, dedicated date night. We started doing date night probably, 6 or 7 months ago. And nothing gets in the way of date night. Don't ask me to do something on a Tuesday night because you're going to be told no. Unless, of course, you're in the hospital and some other things are happening. But you're going to be told no. Matter of fact, probably not even going to answer you. It's date night. That's my night and my wife's night. It happens once a week. But it's a choice. It's a discipline. Do I choose the pain of that discipline now, or the regret of wishing that I had a relationship and wondering why the relationship failed 10 years from now? It's your choice. Maybe it's you want to free yourself in addiction. You want to quit smoking. You want to quit doing crack. You want to quit shooting people. Just seeing if you're paying attention still. Whatever the addiction is. Maybe it's the addiction of food. Maybe it's the addiction of you can't quit spending. Do you deal with the pain? The discipline to do it now, or the pain of the regret later? Find yourself a self-help group. Find yourself a counselor, something. What do you need to choose now to achieve what you want the most? It's really a simple question. So I run the race with purpose. Paul continues on in 1 Corinthians. I run the race with purpose in every step. I'm not just shadowboxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should do. I love that statement. I run with purpose in every step. In other words, everything that we do, every decision that we make should be towards achieving what it is that's the most important to us, what it is that we want the most. So we avoid this pain and the discipline, or we avoid this pain and the regrets. Let's define it this way. Psychology does it this way. Let's imagine, let me show you how this works, practically speaking, how this works. How we get stuck in these ruts and how we get stuck in the now versus the important thing. Let's say that the most important thing to you is you want a pretty green, lush yard. That sounds great, doesn't it? You'd love it when people come to your house and visit and your yard is just gorgeous. It's a cool thing to be able to say, and that's what you want. So I'm going to see my yard become nice and pretty and green and lush. There's a problem with that, though. The sidewalk, when you walk out the front door, is long and winding, and it doesn't go through the yard. But my car is out on the curb, right on the other side of the lawn. But to get to my car and not walk on the yard, I have to take a right turn, and I have to purposely think about it. I don't want to walk in the grass. Walk down the sidewalk, edge myself down the driveway, walk out to the road, go out and get in the car and avoid the grass. There's pain in the discipline of making some extra steps, right? Well, who are we? We're lazy. So what do I do on Monday morning? I wake up, I open the front door, and I There's the car just right on the other side of the yard. Man, I really want this grass to be green, but I need to get to the car now. This won't hurt anything. I'll just walk across the yard today. And truthfully, that's not going to hurt anything. It's a pretty simple thing. Just take a few steps across the grass. It'll grow back, right? It won't crush it. It won't be too bad. But what did you just do? You in effect just gave yourself a legal high. Because you've been telling yourself, well, I want my grass to look nice, so I can't walk on the grass. I need to walk around. I need to have the discipline to do what's right and walk around so that I can take care of what's important in the future for my grass to be nice and pretty. But you just told yourself, I'm doing something that's wrong. You know what your brain does? Your brain releases this thing called dopamine. It's a legal high. It's the excitement of doing something that you shouldn't be doing. So you get all excited because I just walked across the grass. You get in the car and you got the adrenaline pumping now and you're just like, oh, I just got away with it. It happens with addictions. It happens with all kinds of stuff that we take care of now. And we forget about what's important in the future. So one time's not going to hurt anything, right? Yeah, probably not. One time the grass is going to grow. It's going to be just fine. You're not going to crush it. But what happens tomorrow when you walk out on Tuesday morning? Man, that was a whole lot quicker, just walk across the yard. I'm just going to walk across the yard again. I'm going to go get in the car now. Okay, 2 days is not going to hurt anything. A week's not going to hurt anything. But what happens in a month? What happens in 6 weeks? You begin to see some brown spots in the grass. You begin to see some trampled down spots. You begin to see a pathway that's not pretty lush green anymore. And what happens? You walk out one morning and you go, what happened to my yard? You were too worried about making yourself happy now and forgot about what was important the most. And now you're stuck with a yard that has ruts in it and you feel like a failure because you let yourself down. What does Paul say? I don't even know who I am. I know what I want to do, but I don't do what I want to do. I wind up doing what I don't want to do. And it doesn't make any sense. It's discipline. That's all it is discipline. Now, how does that practically apply to our lives? Let's go back to the debt thing. I'm standing on my front porch. It's a short path across the yard, and I got to have that new boat. Man, that's a $40,000 boat. I think I got a credit card I could put that on. Or, my credit's good enough. I could probably just finance that. Let's see. The payment wouldn't be that much. It'd only be about $1,200 a month. I think I can handle that. It's not like I'm getting a raise, so there's no more money, no extra. I think I can handle that. So I'll just buy the boat now. I'll just walk across the yard and finance it. What did you just do to what's the most important to you? You just set it back because now you have another debt. But no, what if you walked out of the front door and you look at the boat over there? Boy, I sure do like that boat, but that's not who I am. I'm disciplined to not get in any more debt. So I'm going to stay on the sidewalk. I'm going to walk this way, and I'm going to continue to save, and I'm going to continue to pay off all the other debt that I have. And I'm going to continue to save, and I'm going to continue to pay off all the other debt. And here in 4 or 5 months, when I finally make it around the driveway and out onto the road to the boat, I may have enough in savings to just pay cash for the boat and not have another debt. That's discipline. What's most important to you? What do you want? Do you want it now, or do you want what's most important? Do you see the point? You see the concept? That applies to everything in our life. I want to grow closer to you, God. I want my prayer life to be better. Well, what are you doing about it? It's easy to come to the first prayer meeting. It's easy to set your clock and come at 6 o'clock on a Sunday night to the first prayer meeting. But the second week, man, we just kind of sat there. Nobody really prayed out. So I can do that here at home. I'll just pray at home tonight. And so you pray at home tonight. And then what happens next week? You might pray at home again, but about 3 or 4 weeks later, you forget that there's even a prayer meeting on Sunday night, and you forget that you were going to pray at home while everybody else was at the church praying. What happened to the prayer? What happened to the desire to go closer to God in prayer? It happens in every aspect of our life if we're not careful. So we have to honestly ask ourselves, do I want it now, or do I want what's most important later? I promise you, you can either deal with the pain of the discipline, or you will deal with the pain of the regret later. I think as a church, Not just the Jacksonville Church of the Nazarene, but as a church as a whole, we're dealing with the pain of the regret for some poor choices that the people before us made to set up a lack of discipline in who we are as a church. And we're dealing with it. How do we change it? We make the right choices. How do we change it? We choose to do the things now that lead to what's most important later, instead of making ourselves happy right now. Paul also shares with us a verse. We sang a song, actually. I remember singing a song as a kid that we always sang this song. Greater is he that is in me. Remember that? Greater is he that is in me. Greater is he that is in me than what? Than he that is in the world. Christ is stronger in me than I am. Listen, if you think that you're going to go conquer the world, if you think you're going to go conquer yourself, if you think you're going to go make yourself make the right choices today because you're strong enough, you are sorely mistaken. You can do nothing apart from Christ in you. The good news is, as we celebrated this morning, he died so he can be that. He died so he can have that relationship with me. But Pastor, I keep failing. Okay, keep trying. Pastor, I keep choosing to do what I know is wrong. Okay, continue to remind yourself what is right. And think about the choices that you make now and what's most important for you in the future. I want you to honestly ask yourself those two questions. Because here's my fear. I really believe this. If you don't do something about it now, maybe even what you wrote down of what you want the most, if you don't do something about it now, it will be your biggest regret in a few years. It just will be. How many parents have you talked to towards the end of their life that they say they wish they'd have spent more time with their kids? How many people do you see laying in a hospital bed whose bodies are just literally failing, that they say they wish they'd have taken better care of themselves? How many people look back over their career and say, man, if I'd have just made this move, this promotion might have happened, and there's regret because you didn't take actions towards it? Don't be the person that has to deal with the pain of regret when it's something you could have done something about before, something you could do something about today. Run the race with purpose in every single step. And everything that you do, do it with a purpose. Do it with the purpose of working toward what is most important. I don't want to be the guy that has regrets. I'll tell you what my most important is. Right now, today, my most important. There's a me most important, there's a church most important. The church most important is to see the church, the body, the members of the church become more spiritually sound. Is to see the people in the church become more connected with Christ in their life. That I can only take that so far. The rest of that's a you choice. The rest of that's a you purpose. But my purpose, my most important purpose right now, is I learn every day that this body ain't getting any younger. Some of you laugh because you say, I'd give anything to be your age. I get it. But I can tell you when the knees make you realize how old you are, the ankles laugh at you when you try to walk up the stairs. My new job, I have to walk up 3 flights of stairs. I'm putting in an order request tomorrow for an oxygen tank at the top of the stairs. I don't know what it is about that 3rd flight of stairs, but when you get up there, you're like, oh, we'll get to work in a minute. I gotta catch my breath first. I don't want to be that way. And the reason that I'm that way is because I haven't taken time to take care of me. So my purpose, what I want the most is to be healthy again. What I want the most is to have a body that's physically fit again. So I'm just going to tell you, starting tomorrow morning, it's going to hurt when the alarm goes off at 5 because that's about an hour earlier than it normally does. It's going to hurt, and it's going to be tempting to turn the alarm off. But tomorrow morning, the alarm goes off at 5, my tail's getting out of bed, and I'm going to the gym before I go to work. If I don't do something about it, I'm going to regret it one of these days when I'm laying in a hospital bed wishing that I could walk. I'm not getting any younger. Neither are you. Spiritually, we're closer today than we were yesterday to that meeting with him one day. We're closer in this breath than we were that last breath. Do you want to do what's important now? Or do you want to do what's most important for you in the future? It's your choice. You will have to deal with the pain of one of them. I promise you. The pain of the discipline to get through, or the pain of regret because you didn't? It's your choice. Stand with me. Pastor, those are pretty harsh words. Sure are. But they're very real words. And my fear is in this feed me now society. I mean, how many times have you got frustrated going through the drive-thru at McDonald's because it took too long? Every day, if you're going through the drive-thru every day, we may have other issues. But even in this fast food society, it's not fast enough. Even in this feed me now society, you can't get it fast enough. Even with all the means we have available to take care of us now, we're still miserable. It's because we've given in to the now. So, what's the most important to you? Are you willing to deal with the pain of the discipline to get to it? Or are you just going to have to suffer the pain of the regret later? Father, I pray this morning, as every head is bowed, every eye is closed, I pray that these words speak boldly. I pray that we honestly take an assessment of who we are, and that we honestly ask ourselves, what am I doing with the choices that I'm making? What are they doing to my life? Am I just getting by because it's comfortable now? Am I just getting by because it's easy? Or am I willing to make the hard choices that may hurt, the hard choices that may cost me something, so that in the future, what's most important is the reality? Because really what should be most important to all of us is, how do we become you? How do we become more Christ-like? How do we become the disciple that you've asked us to be? How do we become the witness in your world that you've asked us to be? And I just have a feeling when we're making the now choices, we're not thinking about who you want us to be. So, Father, I just pray that you would just wash over us. Just pray that you would speak to each of us to honestly assess what is it that's important to us. I don't want to be a church full of regrets. I don't want to be a church of people that are full of regrets because of poor choices. I want to be a church full of people that are excited for life today because they're living with the fulfillment that they're doing and they're choosing to be who you want them to be. That's my desire. Father, as we seek that, I just pray that you would speak to each of us. Maybe there's something in our lives that we need to move out of the way. Maybe there's something in our lives that we need to quit choosing today because it's hindering us, because it's holding us back from being who you want us to be in the future. That's my desire. I pray that that's everyone's desire here. Father, as we wrap this series up in choices next week, pray that you would just continue to open our hearts and open our minds to see it your way, not our way. To see it through your words and not the words that we've made up. And Father, as we seek to make the right choices, I pray that you would honor those. I pray that you would allow us the ability to see results of those choices, and that our faith would grow and our faith would build through the little things so that we can do the big things that you desire of us. Father, we love you this morning. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your faithfulness to speak to us. Just pray that we've listened. Pray that we've heard. Pray that you'd go with us today, that you'd keep us safe. Father, keep us nested in your word today. Keep these thoughts on the forefront of our mind. Not that we would just leave here and it was just a good message. Not that we would leave here and it was, I don't even remember what the pastor preached about this morning. But it would truly be words that are on our heart. It would truly be an action that we need to seek for you and for our lives and for those around us and our families and everything that we find ourselves in. Father, help us to choose discipline, the pain of discipline over the pain of regret later. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.